Glory to God Ministries presents To the Nations of the World, the Love of God, with Dr. Randy Brodhagen.
Chapter 33, Genesis, Jacob looked up and there was Esau, and again he'd sent waves of flocks and sheep and donkeys and animals with his servants in waves ahead of him, and then they were all to say this to Esau: when my brother Esau meets you and asks, to whom do you belong and where are you going and who owns all these animals in front of you, then you are to say, they belong to your servant Jacob. They are a gift sent to my lord Esau, and he is coming behind us. He is coming behind us. So he's preparing the way to meet Esau. One of the ways to dispel anger is to give a gift. So Proverbs talks about, so he's sending waves of gifts ahead to prepare the way. And you'll note the humility in which he's presenting himself. They belong to your servant Jacob, as he's speaking to Esau. They're a gift sent to my lord Esau. So he's humbling himself before his adversary at this point and seeking to get a resolve. As we note, before he meets Esau, there's an encounter in the nighttime, chapter 32. That night Jacob got up and took his 2 wives, maidservants, 11 sons, crossed the ford, and he sent them across the stream, and he sent over all his possessions. So Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him till daybreak. And when the man saw that he could not overpower him, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip, so that his hip was wrenched as he wrestled with the man. Then the man said, let me go, for it's daybreak. We know this isn't the Lord he's wrestling with, but in his mind it is a heavenly being, and an angel, and you know, the angel just wrestling with him. How many understand? If the angel wanted to deal with him, there wouldn't be any contest. So he's just wrestling with him. And Jacob replied, I'll not let you go unless you bless me. And again, that's the tenacity. If there's anything in everybody's life, there's something they're known for. And even a child is known by their ways, for their ways. And so with Jacob, it's the tenacity, the persistence to get the blessing. And when he was born, he came out, pulling, trying to get himself out ahead of his twin Esau. And his whole life has been that way. He's been pursuing the blessing. Unfortunately, in the earlier years, it was by cunning and by his craftiness. But as the Lord started to reveal himself to him, so it went from the God of Abraham and Isaac, as Jacob would say, my father's God, to my God, as he grew in relationship to the Lord and came to understanding. And so the Lord showed him that the blessing of the Lord is upon his life, and as it has been proclaimed before, but he's starting to realize that blessing and understand it's the good Lord that's blessed him, not he himself. And that's the thing with man. Man's always trying to get the blessing and be the blessing and have the blessing. But without the Lord, people don't realize that it's actually the Lord who has blessed them with everything that they are and they have. And so he's coming to that understanding. And we see your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with men and have overcome. And the name Israel means he struggles with God, and not in an adversarial way, but in a working way. And so this event happens now before he goes to actually meet Esau. And I believe you'll see in life that before any drama or crisis point, there's going to be an encounter with the Lord in some way. He may give you a word, a promise. He may, as we have here, an event, a spiritual event, working, something to have the Lord fresh in your mind before you deal with something that is an issue in your life here. And again, this is the biggest issue actually that has been in Jacob's mind since the day when he basically gave the mush to Esau in exchange for the holy birthright. And that's been working on his heart. Sometimes we have to understand that in our pursuit of blessing, we don't have to pursue it. All that the Father has for me, Jesus says, will come to me. I don't have to, in my own strength and understanding, seek to get something. The Lord will make it happen. He'll bring it to pass. So that's what we're dealing with here. See, Esau's salvation is on the line. How many understand? Okay, and he gave it up. He gave it up. But in his mind, at that time, he blamed his brother, and so a lot of years have gone down here, and there is a difference between Esau and Jacob, in that Jacob is still thinking about what happened. Esau, as we're going to see, has let it go, and that's interesting. That's very, very important. But if your life is going to prosper, whether you're blessed, you have the blessing, or you don't have the blessing, you have to learn to let things go and not dwell on them every day. Thinking about it. Jacob, he just has this encounter. The socket of Jacob's hip was touched, and went out of joint. He limped from that time. And Jacob then looks up after the spiritual experience, and there's Esau. I think that's very interesting. Coming with his 400 men, and so he divided the children among Leah, Rachel, 2 maidservants, puts the maidservants and their children in front, Leah and her children next, and Rachel and Joseph in the rear. Again, he's still showing partiality to Rachel to protect her. And he has all the others. He's accepted all the others, but again, he's had some issues about what he wants and what he prefers has always been in the forefront of his mind and his thinking. And even though he's now, coming into understanding of the Lord's blessing, he still wants what he wants and prefers what he prefers. And he's still leaning to his own understanding on things. And so, see, you can always tell not as much by what people say as what they do, what's really going on in their heart and mind. Because a lot of folk, they can talk real smooth. Proverbs says when they talk real smooth, they've got 7 abominations in their heart. Don't believe them. Don't be deceived by what they're saying. They don't have your best interest at heart. They have their own. And many profess unfailing love, but a faithful servant who can find. So you'll know by the fruit of people's life and actions, what they're really about. Okay, and it'll become very evident especially when they get crossed on what they want and they can't have it. Remember, from whence come wars and fightings among you? Come they not of your own lusts? You want something, you can't have it, you fight for it, you do everything you can to get it, and you still don't get it, because you have not, because you ask the Lord not. And then when you ask amiss to consume upon your own lusts. See, and desires, and that's what lust is a strong craving or desire for whatever. It's your desire, not God's desire. And so, because God's desire, He's going to freely give in its time. It will come. But when you try to make it happen and you get impatient and you strive for it, you end up basically bankrupt in the sense that you don't have the joy that comes with a blessing. You don't have the excitement that comes with the gift, because you fought for it, you strove for it, and even such. You remember Laban, you're always going to run into a bigger swindler than you are if you're going that way. You live by the sword, you die by the sword, but you live by dishonest gain. You'll have somebody cheat you out of everything. That's how it works. God's not mocked. Whatever people sow, they're going to reap, for blessing or for cursing. And so, but as we look at this, you can see he put the maidservants and their children in front. All right. You can see his priorities on protection. All right. He cares about them, but he doesn't care about them as much as the others here. And then Leah and her children next. All right. So if an enemy's going to attack, he's going to hit the ones in front first. Then secondly, Leah, and thirdly, Rachel, Joseph in the rear. And he himself went on ahead and bowed down to the ground 7 times as he approached his brother. All right, again, this is what you do is, in honor to folks. So he's humbling himself. But Esau ran, and note Esau's response, he ran to meet Jacob and embraced him. So you get the picture that Jacob is bowing and humbling himself as he goes. He's doing this as he's approaching. But Esau runs up to him and grabs him and embraces him, threw his arms around his neck and kissed him, and they wept. All right, Esau, joy of his brother, Jacob wept for relief of his greatest fear and nightmare. And then I'm sure the joy of the relationship came behind that. Then Esau looked up, saw the women and children. "Who are these with you?" he asked. And Jacob answered, "They are the children God has graciously given your servant." Now you see the changes that are happening in Jacob. Before, it was me working, it was me laboring, it was me acquiring, it was me, doing all this and that. Now it's the Lord has done this. It's interesting because you remember the baby battle that was going on between Rachel and Leah as to who's going to produce the most sons, and eventually Jacob was no more than a man whore, in the situation, the way they were treating him. But that's all changed now. So the Lord has gotten the credit now for what's going on. They are the children God has graciously given your servant. Then the maidservants and their children approached, bowed down, honoring. Next, Leah, her children came and bowed down. This is actually kind of impressive now as the way this is unfolding. And then lastly, Rachel and Joseph, and they too bowed down. And Esau asked, "What do you mean by all these droves I met?" In other words, what's this all about, all this livestock? Jacob had sent a fortune in front of him. The Lord had blessed him so amazingly that he was able to give a fortune of things, and let me tell you, it was worth it to him too, to resolve his fear. See, because it was either Esau kills him, or he, gives all this out there. So again, people aren't always given out of the generosity of their heart. How many understand what I'm saying? There is a motive, there is a reason. So if there are strings attached to a gift, it's not a gift. And this is important to understand because, see, understand this. If Esau's heart was bent to kill Jacob, he would have taken all that stuff anyway. All right? How many understand? Okay, but as Jacob was gifting this, it was to appease his adversary in his mind. All right, how are we doing? Okay, it wasn't that the Lord gave him this plan. It was that he was thinking this. All right, this is how man does it. But the Lord had other plans. He'd already dealt with Esau's heart, and Esau's response here is when asked, "What do you mean by all these droves I met?" Jacob's response was, "To find favor in your eyes, my Lord." Okay, and this is where I'm getting this from, is out of the abundance of the heart the mouth speaks. See, and so his desire was through these gifts to get favor. Now, if the Lord's favor is on your life, you give gifts not to get favor from man. You give gifts to bless people. See, it's a totally different thing. You're giving to give joy to that person, not to get anything back from that person. And that's how, again, how the world works things. They do things. I'll pat your back, you pat mine. I'll do this for you, and you do this for me. It's what we call favors. And down the road, it's what we'll call a string, where people, if they call back the favor. And they may want back what they had given. Well, that's not the Lord. That's very important to understand. And so if you're ever in that kind of working, just understand a gift is a gift. It should never, ever be asked for again. It should never be brought up again, that I did this for you, and now you owe me this. All right, so that's not a gift then, and it never was a gift, or maybe it was a gift at the moment, but the person changed their mind. They changed their mind later on. Okay, but still, a gift was a gift. How many understand? Okay. Now, when the Lord, who only gives good and perfect gifts, gives a gift, there's no strings attached. All right, he's not doing it to earn any points with us. He's not doing it to call it back later. No, there's none of that. It's a gift. All right. Are we getting this? This is very, very important to what we're dealing with here. And because at this point, although they hugged and they kissed and they embraced, Jacob still doesn't really know whether this issue is all resolved. Okay? Right? Okay. Now, what happens? But Esau said, I already have plenty, my brother. Keep what you have for yourself. So he's basically saying, I don't need all this to give you favor. All right. How are we doing? All right. I've already given you favor, so you don't have to let's say bribe, let's say give something that's like a debt being fulfilled. All right. I may know no matter what Jacob gave to Esau, it could never change what has already happened. All right, because the birthright's already been given. The blessing was given with it, and that can never come back. That can never be undone. That can never be resolved. And so, no, please, Jacob says, if I have found favor in your eyes, accept this gift from me. All right. Now, how many know that it is moving into a gift situation now? All right, because it's not about the favor anymore. He has the favor, but now he still wants to give the gift. But for to see your face is like seeing the face of God, now that you have received me favorably. All right, see, he's starting to realize that God has been behind this to give him favor with Esau. And no matter what he did, again, in time past, it's always my wheeling and dealing and finagling and trying to make things happen. But it's not by that. He's learning that it was God that gave this favor now with Esau. It wasn't anything that he had done. Please accept the present that was brought to you, for God has been gracious to me, and I have all I need. And because Jacob insisted, Esau accepted it. All right? Then Esau said, "Let's be on our way. I'll accompany you." But Jacob said to him, "My Lord knows that the children are tender, that I must care for the ewes, cows that are nursing their young. If they're driven hard just one day, all the animals will die. So let my Lord go on ahead of his servant while I move along slowly at the pace of the droves before me and that of the children until I come to my Lord in Seir." Esau said, "Then let me leave some of my men with you." Because Esau's trying to, protect and care for. But why do that, Jacob asked. "Just let me find favor in the eyes of my Lord." In other words, that's all that we're interested in here. And so that day Esau started on his way back to Seir. Jacob, however, went to Succoth, where he built a place for himself and made shelter for his livestock. And that is why the place is called Succoth, which means shelter. All right. And after Jacob came from Paddan Aram, he arrived safely at the city of Shechem in Canaan, camped within sight of the city, bought a piece of land, and he set up an altar to the Lord. Now, I want you to know, what was Jacob only concerned about? Favor, all right? That this is off his head, and it's all resolved, it's all reconciled. No, he never intended to go with his brother or to be with his brother. His brother wanted to go and be with him, but he goes another direction. And this, what I'm talking about, is sometimes things are resolved. They're finished, and they're finished in peace, but they don't continue together. All right? How are we doing? All right? For whatever reason. But it's interesting that Esau had let go of this probably a long time before. And when he knew his brother was coming, he wanted to meet him. He wanted to greet him. He wanted to reestablish things. But that's what it was all about. And we go on from there. All right. How are we doing with this? Get a feel of it? All right. In other words, folk don't always end up back together, that way. So, but as much as lies within you, live peaceably with everybody. But in their heart, they're together, aren't they? Okay? It's resolved. It's taken care of. So away we go.